Welcome back, guys. We got a little bit of a special episode for you guys today. Earlier on in the week, I promised you that you guys would have a video about harvesting this plot. Well, that's this video. This here is our show plot. You guys saw me plant this show plot. Now you guys get to see me harvest this show plot. What do we want to learn from this show plot? Well, really not that much. We use the data throughout the rest of the farm to see how hybrids perform across multiple soil types. This here is kind of for fun. It will just showcase the hybrids, the characteristics of the hybrids, like the tops that come out of them, along with other things such as overall plant health, stay green, taller plants, shorter plants, leafier plants, just the characteristics of the plants, kind of on an even playing field. In this plot, we range from 109-day corn all the way up to 116-day corn. Some notable marks about this plot has 200 pounds of nitrogen put onto it. It is on an above average soil type for our area down here that has a yearly performance of about 10 to 15 bushels above average. It is pattern tiled under here with 4 inches on 40-foot centers. And other than that, this plot has nothing special done to it. It's just regular farming practices. And actually there was no fungicide applied to this plot, so we can evaluate a healthy plant versus a not as healthy plant. Andrew and I are actually going to use Jimmy's grain cart, thanks Jimmy, to get the monitor calibrated so we can harvest the plot with the naglator monitor. A lot easier, a lot quicker, a lot simpler. And a couple of notes about weather. We received 19.85 inches of rain in between when this plot was planted on May 9th and when it's going to be harvested today, October 5th. And for the most part, going into June, we were looking really good. We were looking like we might have had one of the best crops ever coming on. We got really hot and we got really dry. And down in the description, there will be a full breakdown of when the rains came. Notably, we got 0.15 inches of rain in August, and then we actually got 7.5-ish inches of rain in September when the corn was pretty much done from the drought that we had this year. Can't go do that. You're not. So the company man that we got with us, the lucky man that's my DSM, is Rob Voss.
I'm the lucky one. I get to work with Ben.
Brandon is Champion's agronomist. You might have noticed him from like ketchup commercials and things like that. So with the stress going on this year, how should producers prioritize their field, their corn, by the plants healthy? Can we go show them what they should look at?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially in dry years or drought conditions as we've had here this year, throughout a lot of Iowa, what the plants will do to be able to finish producing that year and moving nutrients and essentially completing the grain fill process is they will go to other parts of the plant where nutrients have been stored and relocate those to the ear, which then reduces stalk strength. So kind of the easiest way to go through a field and do some scouting for stalk strength and maybe the likelihood that some corn is ready to be picked before it falls down is either to do a push test where we push on the stalks to about a 45-degree angle and see if that breaks them and they fall over, or if they're able to bounce back and stand straight in the row. The other thing I like to do is go down to the base of the plant and just between my index finger and my thumb just pinch the stalk, and if there's not a lot of movement there and it feels strong, should be good to go.
Obviously the tops come out of the plant. Is that bad for the plant if the top comes out of the plant?
No, a lot of times it's just kind of a cosmetic feature of the plant. Some plants hold their intactness, some lose their tops. Really late season standability is what we're looking for more than late season intactness and tops. So a lot of times it is cosmetic. It's less trash to run through the combine, so it can be a benefit that way. But as long as the plant stands and the ear is able to be harvested, really the tops is just a cosmetic thing.
And I almost think it'd be better because it's like less of a wind sail for it to actually push on.
Yep. Less chance the wind can catch that whole plant and knock it over.
Okay, so bend test, you just push it over.
Yeah, so you just kind of push to a 45 and if that one snapped, we can see. And then if we pinch down here, we see that there's also
not a lot
left in there.
Not a lot of juice left in that plant right there. So that means that it basically cannibalized the inside of that stalk to put it into whatever could be in the ear.
Right.
So
as we open up this stalk here, we see that, and here we do actually have a little bit of disease. That's what this kind of pink fungus is. would be some stock rot coming in and moving in. And then in a stock that has been cannibalized, we won't see very much of this pith. We'll see a lot of the kind of the stringier spots in it, and that'll allow it to be pinched as well.
So to prioritize your fields, go out and push on your plants and pinch your stalks. It was a pit viper commercial that I saw you on, wasn't it?
Might have been. Yeah, 6820 is going to have a little bit more versatility, especially compared to 59A20, where 59A20 is maybe a little more limited based on its population needs. 6820 is going to have a little more ear length or ear flex for populations that move around a little bit. 6820 might handle the lighter soil types just a little bit better. But as Ben said, top end yield potential on it is terrific. It does lose its tops, especially in a more stressed year like we're having here this year. But really just an all-around solid hybrid for us, both on yield and solid agronomics.
And it's running 196 right now, and it's 15.5 to 16% moisture. Good stuff.
Yeah, 61A19 is another kind of versatile hybrid, both on population, soil type, fertility levels, really just able to adapt to the growing conditions and the environment it's in. There. Really good top end yield, pretty decent agronomics, maybe a little bit weaker disease package than say 59A20, but all around I think 61A19, given the year we've had and the type of hybrid 61A19 is, I think it has a chance here to be in the top 3 for this plot. Is just a really consistent hybrid. It may not have the same top end yield potential as 63A18. It may not have the same bottom end stability as maybe a tough hybrid like 63A13. But in just some average soils that maybe roll a little bit, not your best producing, not your worst producing, it's just a good consistent hybrid. Every plant kind of looks the same, a very consistent year. Just really kind of a good get in, get the job done kind of hybrid, kind of regardless of where it gets placed. So I think it fits this part of the lineup really well, where we do have some high yielding stuff, we have some more stress tolerant hybrids. This one just brings some good agronomic consistency on plant health, disease tolerance, and yield is just really stable.
This is the oldest hybrid on the books, so it came out in 13. It is probably the most hardiest hybrid on the books, and for our area, it continues to perform.
Able to work in some really low yield environments, lower fertility, lower organic matter soil types. That's kind of the claim to fame for this hybrid. So as we were talking to some of the previous hybrids, they kind of have that versatility to handle kind of everything, the consistency to handle more medium yield environments, and a few racehorses to really hit that top end yield in the best yielding environments. That's where this hybrid and the one next to it will definitely have that bottom end stress tolerance, especially in a year like this where we have drought conditions. So I definitely expect to see this one kind of at the top of the plot, just given the growing year we've had.
So if you're a guy that says, oh, I farm the tough dirt, this is it.
Yep.
And it was an episode of This Old House that I saw you on. That's what it was.
Must have been.
In your mind, how should somebody diversify their seed profile in between like a defensive hybrid, a good mix, and then like a racehorse? What like breakup would you do?
Kind of the best package, in my opinion, would be like a 4 product or 4 hybrid or 4 soybean variety package, where your 50% of your total acres or units of seed would be the 2 kind of lead products. They have really good yield, but they have a balance of good agronomics. That kind of make up 50%. And then you'd maybe have 25% would be kind of your stress tolerant, stress hardy, drought and heat stress tolerant hybrids. And then that other 25% would be kind of your high yield, best soil, kind of all out bushels. And then that way, kind of regardless of the year Mother Nature gives you, by having 4 products, 4 different maturities, and 4 different styles of balanced defensive and offensive style hybrids, I think sets you up for having good top end yield potential across all your acres, but then diversifies your risk as well.
It's probably my favorite hybrid going into the year.
Yeah. And it 64A20 looked really good kind of all year everywhere I saw it. Even in August when we were getting dry, plant color, the canopy, the ear size looked really good. And I think we just really ran out of moisture for the more full season hybrids.
So now we are in 64A15 Drought Guard. This hybrid 2 years ago did extremely well during a drought. The Drought Guard is an actual genetic trait bred into the plant, and I'll let Brandon explain what that means.
Yeah, so it's Drought Guard Vt2, so it has the same insect protection, same herbicide resistance as the other Vt2 Pros in this plot. And as Matt said, it has the added Drought Guard trait that actually is a genetic modification of the DNA that allows the plant to, when under normal drought stress, the plants are going to try to shut down pretty much all functions of the plant except for surviving. And so when most plants do that, then they quit moving any nutrients and any producing any kind of an ear, really. And so we see smaller ears, smaller grain fill, smaller kernels. Well, what this trait does is it helps the plant to continue moving nutrients to the ear, grain fill even during times of drought stress, and that's where we see that added benefit when plants without this trait are shutting down and going into basically survival mode, conservation mode, don't do anything except for not die. There's a few other products on the market from competitors, competitive seed companies that would be more of a breeding selection, whereas the Drought Guard trait is an actual trait inserted into the DNA.
And Brandon and I were talking one time, and he explained to me, like when they test this hybrid or the Drought Guard trait, and they look for, I guess, genetics to improve upon, is it true that they like put basically a shelter over the corn if there's any type of rain coming, so they'll make it so that that corn gets no precipitation, basically?
Yeah. So there's a few different locations where this breeding is done. Typically in some higher heat geographical locations, and then there's basically a shed on railroad tracks that they are able to start with testing genetics for their drought tolerance, and then those hybrids that show natural drought tolerance, naturally good drought tolerance, will then be selected to have this trait added to their DNA, their genetic package. Those are then tested outdoors, but on this tracks is a shed so that they can basically control any rainfall. They move the shed over top of this plot to prevent any rainfall, limit the total precipitation that this plot gets, to increase basically the control they have over the drought conditions. And then through that 2-tier, the natural drought tolerance of the genetics plus the drought tolerance of this trait, that's how those selections are then brought forward for us to test within our sales footprint, which hybrids we want to bring to market.
So they basically have like the Cowboy Stadium that they grow corn in. People that don't know, when you say flex ear versus a fixed ear, what do you mean when you say that?
So different hybrids have the ability to basically produce a longer ear. A lot of times when we get a longer ear, we'll get a little bit skinnier of an ear, so we'll maybe only have 14 or 16 kernels around. If we get a shorter ear, we might get a little more what we call ear girth. We might get 18 to 20 kernels
Okay, a couple of quick notes since the corn plot's out I want to touch on. A61, A19 shined through brilliantly again this year, performed good last year. I really like that. 62, A21 looks like she's going to be a good strong contender. Also dried down really nicely with 61, A19. It kind of looked like the 110 through the 112 day was kind of the sweet spot for when the rains came this year. I was a little bit disappointed on how 64A20 performed this year. I mean, the plant itself looked great all year long. I thought the yield would be there a little bit better, but I just think it got hurt too much there with the dryness at the end. It will be going and being planted again next year without a doubt. I think that plant has a lot of chances of putting out some big bushels. I really thought 63A13 and 64A15 would shine a little bit better this year. But granted, I like the 64A20. I think they lost a lot of top end yield there when we got really dry. Plus that good dirt's not where they shine. They shine on the tougher dirt. That's where they like to be. So all in all, I think we learned some stuff. Next year will be different. Everybody will point that out. Next year will be different. But it is good to know which hybrids can hold their own when these drought conditions. It makes you feel a little bit better about planting them. So thanks for tuning in here today, guys. We'll see you later.
Hey Ben, I remember where I recognized that guy from. He's from Cole the Corn Star.